All the fine words have come to naught. Federal Parliament has tonight broken for the 6-week winter break without reaching any agreement on how to prevent more tragedies involving asylum seeker boats after nearly 100 deaths in just a week. When it came to the crunch, the Greens and the Coalition defeated the compromise legislation. The government's now setting up an expert panel to advise it, as political editor Chris Ullman reports.
This is genuinely an attempt to end the politics, to have a true compromise.
The Prime Minister knew full well yesterday when she rejected our offer that she was voting for deadlock.
The Senate now needs to pass this bill.
This is now a yes or no proposition.
The government is the one that reversed a policy that worked to stop the boats.
Today is the day we are on the verge of a solution.
If we could just talk.
Just talk turned out to be what today was all about.
Each and every senator needs to examine their conscience.
Would come under enormous pressure with those sorts of numbers, and that's why we said we'd do it over 3 years. We'd get to that number and not immediately.
From the early hours of the morning, a parade of politicians called on senators to endorse or condemn a House bill that would allow offshore processing for asylum seekers.
It is a House of review, not a House of obstruction, and I haven't written off the Senate yet.
Good morning again.
It was the kind of day that must baffle most casual observers. Everyone agreed urgent action was needed.
Each and every senator needs to examine their conscience.
It's time we just ate glass, crunched glass over this, and we have to eat humble pie sometimes, and we have to be prepared to shift our position.
The desperate reason for action was literally a matter of life or death.
Yesterday, another boat sank and more people died. At 9:30 p.m. last night, the search and rescue effort was suspended. The advice of Border Protection Command is that there were 134 people on the boat. 130 lives were saved. 113 men, 3 women, 12 boys and 2 girls. The body of one person who died has been recovered. 3 more have not been found.
All but 10 of the 226 men and women in both houses of the Parliament agreed that offshore processing was a necessary deterrent, even the man who had dismantled the Howard government's Pacific solution.
And supported a bill that includes the reopening of Nauru. That is a big step for this government, and it's something that has caused many of our members quite a deal of angst.
And yet the bill was doomed before debate began.
The Prime Minister knew full well yesterday when she rejected our offer that she was voting for deadlock.
Which is a political solution. It is not a solution for asylum seekers and refugees.
There's genuine feeling on all sides of this debate. Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young recalled the story she was told of the journey of Hussein, a 15-year-old asylum seeker.
My sister sold all of her jewellery, everything she had, to save enough money for me to get to Australia.
But the tears fell on harder ground today.
Many of the speeches in the House of Representatives yesterday were very fine, very personal, very emotional. But to be honest, many of them lacked clarity. They lacked clear thinking about what the Parliament has been asked to do. And I don't want to see the Senate repeat those contributions today.
And a reluctant convert to offshore processing from Labor's left.
I'm troubled by the Nauru approach. I'm troubled by the Malaysian approach. When the circumstances change, you change your mind, and the question is asked, what would you do?
Turned on the Greens for refusing to budge.
Only the impotent are pure. And I think the Greens are standing flat-footed, but pure.
The Greens offered a list of amendments to the bill, including lifting the humanitarian intake from 13 to 20,000 and increasing funding to the United Nations, but would not countenance offshore processing, saying in a media alert that increased targeted resettlement would stop the boats.
You say that nobody would get on boats if your amendments go through. Are you still of that view?
No,
that's what it says in the release, so it's a pretty big claim.
It's not that nobody would get on boats. The issue is that desperate people will try anything they can. And I totally understand that.
And the coalition offered the plan which failed in the lower house yesterday.
There's been a lot of talk, Madam Acting Deputy President, in recent times that compromise is the answer. Can I say regrettably that history is littered with example after example after example of compromise not working.
In the midst of it all, another boat arrived.
Carrying another 100 people who put their lives at risk trying to get to Australia.
And it all ended as scripted.
We have not a solution, but a stalemate, and I think the Australian public are entitled to feel badly let down by the government and by the system.
The Leader of the Opposition has said on many occasions to the Australian nation that he wants to stop the boats. Tonight, the Opposition voted against stopping the boats.
The Opposition Leader sees only one way forward.
I fear that the Australian public will conclude that the only way to stop the boats is to change the government.
The government is establishing an expert panel and enlisting the aid of a cross-party group of backbenchers.
The government has invited Mr Angus Houston, the former Chief of our Defence Force, to lead an expert group to work in the coming weeks, that is, to work quickly, and to provide a report to me and to the nation about the best way forward for our nation in dealing with asylum seeker issues.
In the end, you can only measure politicians by weighing the things they say against their actions. By that measure, and the thousands of words spoken across dozens of hours, today was an epic failure.
Political editor Chris Yellman.